Welcome to the DOL Pod. I'm your host, Alejandro Otero, and today's conversation focuses on how AI is beginning to reshape learning for neurodivergent individuals. We'll discuss designing for neurodiverse learners, as well as how AI tools are already supporting focus, reading, and organization in online environments. Together, we'll consider what it means to think of AI as a cognitive support, and how this shift could influence the future of accessible and inclusive learning design. Our guest is Ms. Tomasa Nelson, Director of Learning, Design, and Quality Assurance here at Howard's Office of Digital and Online Learning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So before we get into the conversation, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself?
Certainly. I am the Director of Learning, Design, and Quality Assurance for the Office of Digital and Online Learning. I have been in the online education space for approximately around 10 years and has seen the shift and the evolved educational landscape around not just online learning, but also digital accessibility and how we are using educational technologies as assistive learning tools. So really excited to talk about the intersection of these three areas and the role that AI is playing in this new landscape as well.
Well, thank you. So to start our conversation, let's get our terms defined. How would you define neurodiversity or cognitive differences in the context of learning?
Neurodiversity is really about recognizing that differences in how people think and process information, like ADHD, dyslexia, or even differences in attention and memory, are natural variations to learning. They're not deficits. For example, one student may read quickly but struggle to retain information, while another student may take more time to read but has strong analytical insight. Another student might think more visually and benefit from a diagram rather than a text-heavy material. So in learning design, this means we're not asking, how do we fix the learner? We're asking, how do we design better learning environments that work for different ways of thinking and learning from the start?
So when we are planning for those kinds of learners, I remember back from my time as an instructor, one of the big frameworks that we leaned on a lot was Universal Design for Learning, or UDL. So with that in mind, that prevalent framework, how does that help us, UDL, how does that help us design for diverse ways of thinking and learning?
Yes, UDL, Universal Design for Learning, gives us a very practical structure for this. It's built around three core ideas, which includes multiple means of engagement, how students stay motivated and engaged in your course, multiple means of representation, how content is presented to the student in the course, and multiple means of action and expressions, how students demonstrate their learning. So instead of assigning only a written paper, for example, you might allow students to submit a video, a presentation, or even a written response. Instead of just reading text, you might include a short video summary, an infographic, or provide guided notes. Those aren't extras. They're intentional design choices that support different cognitive strengths.
That brings me to this term that you've shared with me, the cognitive prosthetic. I love that phrasing. So, when we think about people who are in need of this support for whatever reason, how does AI serve as that cognitive prosthetic? How does that help us think about learning in online environments differently?
So thinking of AI as a cognitive prosthetic means we're treating it as a tool that extends thinking, not replaces thinking. A cognitive prosthetic doesn't replace human intelligence. It augments neurocognitive function. For example, a student might use AI to summarize and paraphrase, breaking dense text into digestible chunks of information. They can use it as read alouds and text-to-speech enhancements, which can be especially helpful for students that may have dyslexia. task organization and prompts, clarifying instructions or reframing assignment prompts. They can also use it for note-taking support during lectures or group work. These aren't cheats. They're accessibility tools comparable to calculators for math learners or assistive technology tools such as screen readers for individuals who may be visually impaired. This shifts learning design. We're no longer just delivering content, we're designing ecosystems where students have built-in cognitive support to help them engage, process, and apply knowledge.
So you mentioned individuals with ADHD or dyslexia. What are some other specific ways that AI can support processes like focus, reading, organization for those students?
So this is where AI becomes very tangible. For reading, AI can summarize like a 20-page article into key points or rewrite it in simpler language. For focus, students can ask AI to create like step-by-step instructions for completing an assignment. For organization, AI can generate study schedules, outlines, or even break large projects into smaller tasks, making them easier to manage. So for a student with ADHD, that might mean write a research paper as an assignment prompt into a clear sequence of manageable steps. For a student with dyslexia, it could mean converting a huge body of text into more accessible formats or explanations.
So I know that a lot of instructors may be wary of AI, but our students, especially our younger students, are very excited to use this new technology. What are some of the ways that they're already using AI to navigate their online learning?
Students are already integrating AI into their workflow. They're using it to generate practice questions before exams. It can support the research process by helping them to narrow broad topics into focused research questions, as well as generating counter arguments or alternative viewpoints. They can also use it for brainstorming ideas when they're stuck. In many ways, AI is becoming a 24/7 academic support tool. Instead of needing a tutor or maybe even waiting for office hours, students are able to get immediate feedback and guidance in the moment that they need it.
So with that in mind, thinking about how our learners are already engaging with this, our institutions need to consider what are the baselines? What are the guidelines for how we engage with AI in the learning environment? What do you think institutions should be considering when it comes to like equitable access to these tools?
So equity definitely goes beyond just access. It's also about capability and clarity. For example, are students provided with institutionally supported AI tools, or are they expected to find their own tools? Are there training sessions showing how to use AI effectively? Are there training sessions showing students how to use AI effectively for studying, not just with writing prompts? Without that structure, some students will leverage AI as a powerful learning tool, while others won't know where to start with using AI. And that leads to inequity in the use of AI.
Then if our institutions are being mindful of how to engage with this, what would you recommend for our faculty and our course designers? What should they be considering when integrating or considering integrating AI as a cognitive support into their courses?
It really comes down to being intentional and transparent. Supportive scaffolds versus answers that replace cognitive effort. So the way that we are scaffolding the learning environment, designing assignments that reward critical thinking and reflection rather than verbatim text generation. For example, instead of banning AI, a faculty member might say, use AI to generate an outline, but your final submission must reflect your own analysis. Or use AI to summarize this article, then critique the summary. So from a design perspective, we can also embed AI into the learning process, like including prompts that guide students on how to use AI to prepare for discussions or assignments. That way, we are teaching students to engage AI as a tool for thinking and not a shortcut.
As AI is continuing to evolve, we don't know what's coming next. We don't know what it's going to look like in a month, let alone a year. What are some of the ways that maybe wearable technology, I know that that's been huge in the marketplace recently. What role does that technology play with how students are going to be learning?
We're moving toward learning environments where support is built in and available in real time. So, for example, AI note takers can capture and summarize lectures automatically, which helps students stay focused. Devices like Meta Smart Glasses allows free access to information that even includes recording information. And AI translation earbuds can support non-native English speakers by translating content during live sessions. At the same time, this raises important ethical and policy questions around data privacy, equitable access, and what counts as appropriate use in academic work. So as these tools evolve, institutions will need clear guidance that balances innovation with responsible use. The goal is not just to adopt new tools, but to integrate them in ways that genuinely support learning while maintaining fairness and integrity in our academic work.
How do you think this shift is going to influence the future of accessibility and learning design in online education as these tools become more prevalent?
I think this is where we see the biggest shift from accommodation to intentional design. So, for example, including multiple formats as a standard might look like a faculty member providing content through video, text, and audio, being really intentional in how they're designing and delivering content. So students can engage with the material in ways that align with how they learn best. With AI-supported assignments, it could be, again, as simple as asking students to generate an outline or summarize a reading, teaching them how to use the tool, and then how to refine or critique that output. This focus shifts to how students are thinking and engaging with the material. And we anticipate learner variability. This is part of being intentional with our design process. We're building in supports from the start, clear instructions, checklists, guiding prompts, so students can focus on learning rather than figuring out how to begin in their course. Ultimately, accessibility becomes less about checking compliance boxes and more about designing learning experiences that are flexible, supportive, and responsive from the start.
Before we go, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, thank you for having me. And my final thought is think of learning design as intentional design. Intentional design in the learning environment isn't just about accommodations. It's about good design that benefits everyone.
We appreciate your time. So again, Ms. Tomasa Nelson, Director of Learning Design and Quality Assurance at Howard University's Office of Digital and Online Learning. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the DOL Pod.